And joining us here on the St. Louis Sportists podcast is Khaled Abdallah of the fantastic 40/40 Vision podcast, which I was honored to be a guest on earlier this year. And Khaled, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's weird to be on the other side of this. I'm not usually a guest on other podcasts, but this is a fun little change for me.
Well, and we are delighted to have you. Technically, you are our first guest on the St. Louis Sportists podcast, so we'll get you a coffee mug or something.
All right.
I think.
Love it.
So you are coming to us from the West Coast, and you are a longtime fan of all things Bay Area.
Correct. Yeah, all things East Bay Area, I want to specify, except for the Warriors used to be on the East Bay, but generally you see people choose one side of the Bay or the other, so they'll go, Niners, Niners, Giants, or, Raiders, A's, but obviously things have changed, and the Warriors are in San Francisco, and now only the Giants and Niners are in the Bay Area, so yeah, I needed to make sure that there was a clear distinction.
Well,
that I was the East Bay guy.
Very important. Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about the A's, because the last thing a lot of us in the Midwest here saw was that really sad kind of scene on the last day of the baseball season last year when they were wrapping up their run at the Coliseum, or as I just have in my mind Howard Cosell saying, the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, which it's changed names so many times I don't even know what it was by the end there.
I think by the end it was just the Oakland Coliseum. Growing up, it was the McAfee Coliseum for the the antivirus software. Then it was O.co for Overstock. It's gone through so many names. So I think now it's just back to the Oakland Coliseum. I think it's too old to have a sponsor now. But I've had as a fan, I've had the misfortune of watching two last games for two of my favorite teams at the Oakland Coliseum. The Raiders, I believe it was 2019. They lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who were, I think, the worst team in the NFL at that time. So that was a kind of a sad end for them there. And then the A's, honestly, I don't even remember the result of that game. I know they played the Rangers because I had tickets to that series. I wasn't able to make it, unfortunately, but my sister went on my behalf to say goodbye to the A's for me, at least the A's in the Coliseum. But a lot has happened since then. They've made the move to Sacramento, which is about 100 miles from Oakland. So if you're driving, it's an hour and a half. There is an Amtrak route that goes. They call it the Capital City Corridor. So a lot of fans from the Sacramento area used to take the train down to, especially Raiders games, but the train wouldn't run that late. So you couldn't make it to A's games, especially night games or Monday Night Football, things like that. So I think some of the fans might make the trek the opposite way to this minor league ballpark out here in Sacramento. And we could talk a little bit more about what that ballpark looks like, because it's pretty ridiculous that a major league team is there. But also the A's have spent money for the first time in, 25 years. For a long time, the longest contract that ownership, John Fisher, has given out was to Eric Chavez. So I think he's been retired for probably 10 years now, maybe close to that. But since then, they've spent a ton of money extending some guys. They've signed, I forget the pitcher's name, but sort of a big name pitcher. And I think they've spent the second most this offseason compared to the Yankees, or second to the Yankees, which is obviously not something that they're known for doing. So there's been a lot happening over there, in the A's organization since that last game.
Yeah. And let's talk about that ballpark, because you've got, it's interesting for Major League Baseball with the situation in Tampa and the situation, with the A's. You've got two teams playing in crazy small ballparks this season.
It's incredibly upsetting. That situation, first of all, is the fact that they're trying to force the Tampa Bay ownership to sell through no fault of his own. It seems they've been a competitive organization. I forget how long ago, but within recent memory, they were in the World Series. They're always competitive, even though they don't sell out their ballpark very much. And this ballpark that the A's are playing in, so I've only been to a Sacramento River Cats game. So the River Cats used to be the A's AAA affiliate for a long time. Now they're the Giants AAA affiliate. So it's kind of interesting that they're still sharing a ballpark, even though they're not part of the same organization. But it's a very typical small town minor league ballpark. It's I think the official capacity is 10,000 or was 10,000, and there was only seats along the first and third base lines. The rest of the stadium it's a lawn. So when I went, I took my kids and my nephews. I think we were 8 or 9 of us. So I bought lawn seats for $10 a pop. And this stadium, it's nice. It's a nice minor league ballpark. It sits on the Sacramento River. It's got a nice view of the small Sacramento downtown, but it feels minor league. You don't walk in there and get greeted by the majesty of some ballparks like Busch Stadium or Yankee Stadium or Fenway. It's nice, it's cozy, but it's kind of insulting to be a major league player, I would think, to play in a place like that.
Now, you used one word there that you actually worked beautifully into my next question, which is when you said cozy. Are we looking at kind of your typical 330 down the line, typical power alleys? Is it small? Is it big? Or how will it play in terms of pitcher's park, hitter's park?
It's definitely a hitter's park. There's a lot of people that are joking about Aaron Judge coming to town and hitting a ball into the Sacramento River, which is just, on the outside of the ballpark. It's really small. is all I could say. And again, it's cozy. It's nice for a minor league day out where you're spending, $10 a pop on a ticket and the concessions are cheap and everything, but it feels small town and small time, which is what it is, that's what it was designed for. So my understanding is they've added major league level clubhouses for the teams. So I think they've done some construction work. I don't know what the outfield looks like, but I assume it's not lawn seating anymore. I haven't actually looked at the tickets. I get emails all the time trying to sell me season tickets because I've bought tickets for the A's before. Mm-hmm. So I actually do want to look at the seating chart to get an idea of what it looks like, but I'm pretty sure it's still a lawn out there.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure they're basically anyone on their email list, text list, anything. So what is the feeling in Oakland toward the A's right now of like the longtime fans or people that have followed them previously?
So I'll give you an idea of what the sentiment is on social media. I'm not sure on Instagram. I think I unfollowed them on Instagram, but on Twitter, they've actually turned off replies to their tweets. So you can imagine, usually people only do that when it's a politician, talking about a cheating scandal or something like that, where you just don't want people to talk to you. So it's been, I think, a year now or 2 years now since they've turned off the comments. They still have not turned the comments back on or the replies back on, even though they're gearing up for this new season, coming up pretty soon. I think opening day is just around the corner here in Sacramento. But the mood in Oakland is anger, frustration, disappointment, especially because this feels like the A's were the last vestige of pro sports identity in Oakland. It's a town, because that's what the nickname is. It's called the town. The San Francisco is the city and Oakland is the town. So there's always been this sort of inferiority complex between the two where, San Francisco is this hustle and bustle. It's Silicon Valley. It's fast paced, but it's also grounded because it's the hippie movement and all that. And Oakland is known more for Black culture, for the Black Panther movement, for political activism. So it's a little bit of a different vibe there. Obviously, it feels small towny at times, and that's why it's called the town. And the Raiders left. The Raiders left twice, unfortunately. The Warriors, they just moved across the bay, but it just felt like a change in their identity, where they went from this lovable underdog team. My whole life, they were kind of a joke. They were lovable losers where they were trying to sell you tickets. It was a type of team where they were trying to sell you tickets based on who the opponent was. You're right. So they're sending out emails. Hey, get this 10-game season ticket package to see Kobe and the Lakers, Tim Duncan and the Spurs, Dwayne Wade and the Heat, and then obviously LeBron and all that. So now they've embraced this Silicon Valley startup techie identity that comes with being in this, shimmering, gleaming arena in San Francisco. And credit to the ownership, they privately financed it. So I'll give them credit for that. They didn't put their hand out for taxpayer dollars. And this is kind of a sign of the times, but it felt like the A's, they've been there the longest. It became part of the city. They were the swinging A's back in the 70s, and they really embodied the spirit of that town and that city. And now they're just left with, they have a minor league soccer team, which I do want to talk to you about, and then how they're trying to keep this Oakland identity going. But it's just, you scroll down the Reddit, the Oakland A's subreddit, and it's just people pouring their hearts out, saying, I've been an A's fan for 40 years. I'm sad. I hate the MLB. I'll never watch another baseball game ever again. So it's a lot of hurt, and it's very understandable.
And it's interesting because you do kind of develop an attachment to the players, and you almost wondered if some of that, might kind of fight through everything, but doesn't sound like you're even seeing that at this point.
No, and the great irony about that is growing up as an A's fan, especially in this John Fisher, Lou Wolf era, is you learn not to get attached to the players. That's the thing, right? So, growing up, my first introduction to the A's was the 24 game win streak. It was a big three to Zito, Mulder, Hudson. It was Miguel Tejada, Eric Chavez, Jermaine Dye, like all these names, these like giants of the game. Jason Giambi, Jeremy Giambi, may you rest in peace. All these names, and as soon as they got good enough, it was just like expected. We were the farm team. We were a major league farm team for the AL East specifically. I remember Giambi went to the Yankees. Damon went to the Red Sox. Tejada went to the Orioles. So on and so forth. Just, Mark Mulder, I think he went to the Cardinals.
Cardinals, you bet.
Yeah, a great pitcher. But it just became part of the identity. And then you look later on, it was Josh Donaldson. It was, what's his name? Yoenis Cespedes. There's so many names. Matt Chapman. I could talk all day about names, but it was always like as soon as they were up for an extension, they were gone. So it kind of worked out in the sense of like you never knew who was going to be on the team next year, so you just rooted for the name on the front, not the back, and you learn not to get attached. So at this point, I've personally started to detach myself from the team for the last couple of years. I would, kind of follow it here and there just to see how bad it had actually gotten, because they were trying to pull, basically the plot of Major League in real life. So I would keep like one eye, like, how bad is this team really going to be? But I will be honest, I couldn't name the top three starters right now. I couldn't name the best players on the team just because I've detached myself from it. I'm like, I might still go to a game just because I live literally 10 minutes from this ballpark and I want to see some Major League action in my backyard, but I won't be going there to root for the A's. That's right. For sure.
And what's going to be interesting, or I shouldn't say interesting, but we had the Rams leave St. Louis, and then a couple of years later, they're in the Super Bowl, which of course was part of Stan Kroenke's grand plan. And, you asked me when we chatted the first time, so were there parades in the street? And I'm like, no, it was kind of the opposite. We were like rooting. We were, the term was hate watching. A lot of St. Louis was hate watching that game. And so if the A's out of nowhere come up with like this magical run now that they've spent some money and acquired some talent, are you imagining it would kind of be the same thing if they're like, standing on the doorstep of going to the World Series this year?
It would be the biggest slap in the face to the teams or to the fans, just because they've been begging for a contender for decades, right? And when the team was good, when ownership invested a little bit, when there was a competitive product on the field, the fans were there. I don't care how crappy the stadium was, how terrible. They still had troughs in the bathroom, to give you an idea, when it came to the urinals. So, but there was a sense of community there, right? It was always like, this is a dump, but it's our dump. And that's how Raiders fans felt. That's how A's fans felt. So there was this real sense of bonding of like, we're in this awful place, but we're here together and we're having a good time. And we show up when the team is doesn't even have to be competitive. It just has to be, there has to be some kind of investment from ownership. And when that was there, we were there. And now if they start to compete, because they are spending money, they're extending their best players. I'm seeing, news reports, they're spending big money on contracts that all of a sudden they have that they supposedly didn't have for, 30 years in Oakland. So I would think that most people in Oakland would root against them. At worst, at best, they would be, neutral to it. I'm sure there's some people that are just like, hey, I just want to watch baseball. I still like this team. I'm still going to support them, and that's fine too. But I think I'm leaning more on the neutral side. I just don't have a rooting interest in baseball, and it's really turned me off to a sport that I grew up loving, and that's what I think was what's most upsetting to me.
Yeah, and I know exactly where you are because I went through it with the NFL. I was, as you know from previous conversations, a bit of an NFL historian, and realistically, my wife and this podcast kind of got me back into the NFL. I went like 2 or 3 years with, playing golf on Sunday or cleaning up around the house. I just literally didn't watch the NFL. And I can totally get how something that you've loved and has been a passion all your life can just go away. But before we leave the Coliseum, I do want, and I'm pretty sure that you've heard this story. John Madden was playing the Chiefs, or the Chiefs were coming into town the following weekend, and he was walking past the visitors' locker room, and he saw some workers in there, and he says, "What are you guys doing?" And they said, "We're getting ready to spray for rats." And he said he paused and said, "Can you wait a week?" So
that's like a classic old-timey sports thing. It's like Red Auerbach. They would do, I think they would turn off the hot water
yes,
in the visitors' locker room in the Boston Garden, and anything you can do for a home field advantage. It's like if we've got rats, they might as well be eating the Chiefs players' clothes and not ours.
What's one more week, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So let's take a look into the future just a little bit here. The stay in Sacramento is, they've already predetermined the length, allegedly.
Yeah. Allegedly, correct. It's 3 years, supposedly. We'll see.
So 3 years, and that's the length of time it's going to take to construct this stadium in Vegas, which the mayor of Vegas once famously tripped on her tongue a little bit when she was talking about it and said that, take it or leave it, kind of, which she quickly retracted. So let's assume that this stadium in Vegas somehow doesn't come to pass. Is there any possibility that the A's would end up back in Oakland?
Yeah. So the first thing on the Vegas thing, I don't think it's going to happen. And that's my gut feeling is that the Vegas taxpayers, Vegas politicians, I think it's kind of a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And they already got fooled by the Raiders having to pay, a ton of money. They had a hotel tax, all kinds of stuff to help foot the bill for, I think it was a $700 million stadium for the Raiders, which was built in I think it was completed in 2020. I just don't see them doing that again. I know there's been a lot of opposition. I think we're all watching the stock market with a wary eye, and the economy's not in the best shape. We'll see how long that lasts, but I don't see it happening. Personally, I mean, I could be wrong, obviously, but my gut feeling is they find a way to stay in Sacramento. I think ownership has burned the bridges to Oakland. I don't think, unless they sell the team, which is obviously a very real possibility, you could make, I don't know, what is it, $4 or $5 billion for the sale of the team. I'm not sure what MLB teams go for these days. I know that's what NBA teams go for, but I just don't see in their current, as currently constructed with John Fisher as the owner, I don't see them going back to Oakland by any means. Sacramento, on the other hand, has been floated for a long time as a potential relocation place for the A's. And, since I was in high school, middle school, it was always the A's were looking for somewhere else in the Bay Area or near the Bay Area to relocate. They had this long, protracted legal battle with the Giants for the territory in the South Bay Area and San Jose, Santa Clara area. The Giants and MLB said, no, you can't have that. That's Giants territory. They tried to build in Fremont, which is a smaller town about maybe 20 miles south of Oakland. Couldn't get that done. And then they talked about Sacramento, which again is about an hour and a half from Oakland. It's a very realistic, drive, like a weekend drive if you're an Oakland fan or you're an A's fan in the Bay Area or in the East Bay. And there's a lot of A's fans out here because obviously Sacramento doesn't have a professional baseball team. So you generally pick the A's or the Giants. So I think if they had just made Sacramento their relocation area, it would have been ideal. The Sacramento Kings owner, Vivek Ranadive, helped facilitate the move for the A's to Sacramento. He is, I believe, a minority owner of the River Cats. So he had something to do with moving them to Sacramento for this temporary stay, which is kind of ironic because he helped the Sacramento Kings stay in Sacramento when they were threatening to move to Seattle. So a lot of mixed feelings about that guy here in this area. But I think, 5 years from now, I think they will be the Sacramento A's with a permanent ballpark being built here in the Sacramento general area. There's a lot of land out here. It's a little cheaper than the Bay Area. It's not Vegas, but that's my gut feeling.
Well, and so that has become kind of the question now, is if you're going to build a stadium, how does it get paid for? And that's where someone would have to step in, because I know that using taxpayer dollars, as you and I talked about the last time we visited, taxpayer dollars is for stadiums is not really popular right now.
No, that's a well that's dried up almost completely. The Niners did it, or they didn't do the tax dollars. They actually financed it through PSLs, which is the personal seat licenses, which is a specific to the NFL. I don't think any other league does that. The Warriors did it by financing it themselves with a ton of money. I'm sure they did all kinds of financial shenanigans to get the money for that, but they did not ask the San Francisco taxpayers to foot that bill. So if they were to do it here in Sacramento, again, there's a lot of space out here. It's a growing area. It's almost becoming like not a suburb of the Bay Area, but it's becoming an extension of the Bay Area. A lot of people live in Sacramento and commute to the Bay Area for work. That 100 miles, whether it's by car or by train or whatever it is. So it's the world is getting smaller in that sense. Maybe they extend the Amtrak service. Maybe they do something like that. But I just obviously it's not going to be taxpayer money. So maybe John Fisher, gets another investor. He sells shares of the team to maybe Vivek, and they end up financing a stadium out here. And it's not like you need to build a 60, 70,000 seat, Coliseum like they have in Oakland. You can make a 20,000 seater. It's not a big footprint. So I think it's obviously going to be a little bit cheaper than building a whole football stadium. So I can see them trying to do that here in Sacramento.
Well, and the one they were talking about in Vegas, I noticed on the most recent drawings was only 37,000 seats or so. Not large by, and granted, the size of the stadiums have come down in the major leagues, because no one wants anything like old Cleveland Stadium or, even 18 miles from here, Busch Stadium 2, which granted it was a multi-use, but that seated over 50,000. And, that's, you don't see that as much with the new baseball stadiums.
Yeah, I mean, that was the hot thing for a long time. I think Cincinnati, when they built their new stadium in the 70s, it was a dual use. Pittsburgh, Oakland, Miami, Philadelphia, the old veteran stadium. I think Oakland and Miami were like the two last ones holding on for a long time. And then it was just Oakland for a while, where they had the dirt infield during Raiders games, which is a very familiar sight to me growing up. So that's the thing, is they don't need that giant stadium anymore, because everyone's doing baseball specific stadiums, soccer specific stadiums on a smaller footprint. So it's cozier, but not too cozy, like a minor league ballpark. But even the area around the Rivercat Stadium, I could see that, it's some housing around there, but I think there is enough space there even. But yeah, if you look at an aerial map of Sacramento, there's a lot of land. There's a lot of space out here. It's an agricultural area. And there's a lot of towns just around the, Sacramento downtown that are probably going to be vying for this stadium and everything that comes with it, with all the fans and the people coming to the city. So I could see that happening much easier than building a $1.7 billion stadium or whatever it is in the heart of the Strip.
Yeah. And so just again, so too much damage in the bridge. I hate to say it, but the bridge has been burned to Oakland.
Absolutely. With current ownership, if they sell it to someone else, then I could see them coming back. But I think John Fisher, the way he handled things with the political leadership in Oakland and the fans in Oakland, there are people that are vowing to never give a single cent to this man. So even if he were to try and come back to Oakland, he'll be playing in front of, just like the last season, they'll be playing in front of, 50 fans on some of these afternoon ball games.
some of those pictures were just mind blowing, where you could almost like literally physically count the people that were at the game. So speaking of the Coliseum, what are the plans for it going forward?
Yeah, the current tenants of the Oakland Coliseum are the Oakland Roots and Oakland Soul. So the Oakland Roots, it's Oakland Roots SC, which actually stands for Sports Club, not just Soccer Club. Same thing with the Oakland Soul. So the Oakland Soul is their women's team, and the Oakland Roots is the men's team. And they both play in the minor league. It's like the second division of soccer here in the U.S., the USL Championship. And they, for the past, I think 5 or 6 years, they bounced around to different community colleges in the Bay Area. They played at Laney College in Oakland and Cal State East Bay. And now that the Coliseum has been vacated, they are now playing all their games there. So I'm excited. I bought season tickets for the Oakland Roots, even though I'm about an hour and a half away. I won't be able to make it to too many games, but I just wanted to support the mission. One of my friends from college is the CMO, one of the founders of the team. So a little personal connection there as well. He's been on the podcast. So a really great guy by the name of Grease. He's, again, the CMO. And their whole thing is, we are truly rooted in Oakland. So the A's had a marketing gimmick a few years back where when the Raiders were leaving, they took shots at the Raiders and said, the A's are rooted in Oakland. And people love that. They were like, awesome, the Raiders are leaving, but the A's are never going to leave. And obviously that ended up being a load of crap. But the Roots are truly rooted in Oakland. The founders are from Oakland. They're all about Oakland. They are looking to build a soccer-specific stadium, I believe near the parking lot, which is a massive parking lot for the Coliseum itself, or they're looking at somewhere closer to downtown. But obviously those are easier to build because it's probably between 10 to 20,000 seats for a smaller soccer team. But yeah, they are going to be the current tenants, and I think the people of Oakland are showing up for that. The home opener is supposed to be a real blast. It's actually on March 22nd, so I'm going to be there for that. Hopefully, again, won't be able to make too many games after that, but they're a really popular team. A lot of people don't even know they're a soccer team. They love the logo. You've probably seen Damian Lillard, who's from Oakland, wearing their gear. Marshawn Lynch is a minority owner or investor, Jason Kidd. So they're really going for, all these Oakland celebrities, kind of the Mount Rushmore of Oakland sports, and saying, hey, get involved with this team. We're going to be all about the Bay Area. We're going to be truly, truly rooted in Oakland. And it's a real, incredible mission that they've gone on in the past few years to go from a, non-league team to now a USL championship or pro team. So I'm excited for that, and I hope the people of Oakland show up for that.
Well, that is a very cool story, and kind of an uplifting way to end what isn't necessarily a very uplifting thought on what's going on with the A's. But as we've said, you never know how things are going to turn out. But we will wish the Roots all the best because as we've seen here in St. Louis, soccer can really take off and really lift up a town.
Yeah. And I tell people that say, people complain, oh, there's no more professional sports teams in Oakland. I'm like, there's the Roots and the Soul. They are technically professional. It's not, the major leagues. It's not Major League Soccer, but it is a professional team that you can root for with the security, knowing that, Roots is in the name. So hopefully they're never leaving.
They are staying. Khaled Abdallah, the 40/40 Vision podcast, and you're on what is it they say, all of the major platforms?
Correct. We are on Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. YouTube, of course, we have a lot of great content on there. Of course, I did a really good interview with someone by the name of Ron Cook earlier this year. Very knowledgeable about the history of pro sports in St. Louis. I actually did 2 other St. Louis podcasts that month. It was kind of the month of St. Louis by chance, where we did the Cardinals What Ifs. And we did another look specifically focused on the Rams and why they left and all the drama around that. And it's been a lot of fun talking about St. Louis sports. And we made a lot of parallels between the two cities and how, they've just been abandoned by these billionaires that treat professional sports like a plaything. And that's, it's a sad connection to make between the two, but I think it helps us bond a little bit.
Definitely. Well, Khaled, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
Definitely. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Take care.